The consciousness and the cosmos. A path to one's own inner cosmos.
In assistance of the more profound understanding of the current planetary transition.
A stimuli that accompanies the pilgrim in his return to his cosmic home.
The consciousness and the cosmos. Radio program of Uksim, Planetary Service Center.
Hello dear listeners, my name is Jez.
And my name is Arowina.
Each moment is an instance of transition that is accelerating at a vertiginous speed. How do I participate in assisting this time of transition?
Together with Daniel Gagliardo, the founder and instructor of Cosmosophy Uksim, we will conduct a comprehensive study of cosmosophy, spiritual laws and cosmic life.
The most important point, according to Daniel Gagliardo, is to remain aware and refrain from using materialism for personal gain. It is essential to avoid engaging in selfish multiplicity that is swifty, deteriorating everything that sustains life on our planet. Achieving this requires me to align with my inner essence, deepening my connection with my own inner cosmos.
Daniel says, most of humanity sees the cosmos outside their consciousness, but in fact we are all connected as one, and the destruction of the planetary surface must be viewed in its cosmic context. So only my inner cosmos can show me what I need to express in a chaotic outer cosmos. Humanity must abandon the contradictory position it has taken, in which it regrets the chaos and destruction of planetary life, but at the same time participates in this activity. First of all, I need to let go of my beliefs, because one of the strongest beliefs is that there is no cosmos inside me. There is nothing. How can I be attentive to something I don't believe in? Since I believe in the outer cosmos, I should confirm it inside me according to the law of polarities. Once the presence of the inner cosmos is confirmed, I need to open myself to it and get an orientation on how to simplify my life. Those who are superficial will never accept that the cosmic life pulsates within them, which should be reflected in thoughts, feelings and actions. This is the best service a being can perform at this stage of transition. First of all, I need to let go of my beliefs, because one of the strongest beliefs is that there is no cosmos inside me. There is nothing. How can I be attentive to something I don't believe in? Since I believe in the outer cosmos, I should confirm it inside me according to the law of polarities. Once the presence of the inner cosmos is confirmed, I need to open myself to it and get an orientation on how to simplify my life. Those who are superficial will never accept that the cosmic life pulsates within them, which should be reflected in thoughts, feelings and actions. This is the best service a being can perform at this stage of transition.
El discernimiento, hoy dijimos que al igual que otras energías, el discernimiento tiene como dos polos. Arranca de un polo muy negativo, ¿sí?, hasta llegar a un polo muy positivo, que es el marco superior al cual puede llegar la razón en términos de discernimiento, ¿sí? Llegar a tener un discernimiento positivo. Después hay un discernimiento superior, que es el que estimula a tu alma, a tu campo de conciencia externo, a este ser que está acá sentado.
Because there is a moment where the being has to give space to his own inner consciousness, so that his own inner consciousness can nourish an order, nourish a ceremony of discernment, totally different from one that he came implementing throughout an immense number of incarnations, where discernment was supposed to be evaluate, reason, compare, analyze, speculate, and from there take what was best for us.
But this is a very basic, very primitive discernment, a discernment that, seen from a higher point of view, has no ethics, because ethics has to do with the common good, and rational discernment rarely has to do with the common good. Instead, it has to do with seeking one's own well-being, taking advantage of something, or at least avoiding exposure to something that bothers us or is supposedly not suited to us. So the discernment of these times, to which we have to be open, is the discernment that comes from the inspiration of our own soul, from our own inner consciousness. For this, the being must have realized that there is a region of his consciousness, an area of his consciousness, that can offer what ego and personality, by their own means, cannot reach.
Sean semejantes, o no hay gente que compra siempre el mismo modelo de coche, hasta el color pide igual, ¿sí? Y otro dice, pero siempre compra lo mismo, y bueno, por algún motivo. Y en este sentido, la experiencia que tenemos que hacer con la energía es la misma.
When higher discernment is operating, whatever the being puts in place for that discernment to begin to operate is for the common good, is of common benefit. When my soul stimulates me, when my inner being nourishes my mechanism of thoughts, feelings, and subsequent actions, it is offering me that this functioning without preference attends equally to the whole of life.
To discern, then, for this stage of humanity that we have to undertake and understand, to take on more deeply, is to make room for the inner will to take charge through the governance of our thoughts, feelings, and actions, of attending to life for the benefit of the whole and of all. In this dynamic of the planetary transition, our dreams as well are affected in some ways. How should one act and work in dreams when psychic energies intervene? Should one try to escape the state of dreaming?
Si la vida nos coloca en una situación, no es para huir de la situación, sino para dar con la solución en el marco de la situación. Entonces, cuando una persona está pasando alguna cuestión, no importa si en vigilia o en sueño, ese es un asunto que tiene que aprender a desenvolver en su vida.
If life puts us in a situation, it is not to run away from a given situation, but to find a solution within the framework of the situation. So when a person is experiencing an issue, whether in wakefulness or in sleep, it is an issue that they must learn to manage in their life. The culture we share has lost the ability it once had, at least in some subcultures, to understand dreams as a vital part of our lives. Some cultures have paid a great deal of attention to dreams, with some individuals even receiving karmic training to interpret them internally.
As humanity became more rigid and materialistic, it lost the ability to recognize that the subjective, more subtle and flexible aspects of life also offered possibilities for growth, expansion, awareness and learning. And dreams are simply another state of consciousness, but not foreign to this life, that we have to learn to unfold. So when one is dreaming, the energy is saying, in this state is how you can best attempt that. That is what the energy is saying to the person. At this moment and in this state, you have the ideal conditions to practice something.
Fue perdiendo la capacidad de poder confirmar que en los aspectos subjetivos más sutiles, más flexibles de la vida, también existían posibilidades de entrenamiento, de expansión, de concientización, de aprendizaje.
Daniel Gagliardo continues. So when you're in a dream going through a situation, you don't have to try to wake up if you don't like the dream. Instead, you have to try to develop the situation with as much equilibrium as possible, with as much harmony as possible, with as much discernment as possible, with dedication. There is nothing that we're experiencing in waking life that does not apply to a dream experience. Nothing.
Suppose a being is going through a stage in life where he is trying to be lucid, to be dedicated, to have balance, harmony, synthesis, persistence, fidelity, to live in faith, all of which he would try to do in the waking state. In that case, he has to try to do it in the dream state. The soul and the inner consciousness and the laws of the planet know why a being is put into a situation that they have to learn to deal with, and that if one is not open to the solutions in waking life, one will not be open to the solutions in dreams, and vice versa. Therefore, we must always strive to be open to tuning in internally and discerning the situation and its solution. Regardless of whether we are awake or dreaming, reality remains the same. There is only one reality, regardless of whether we are awake or dreaming. Reality is always one, and the task we have is the same, whether it is one in our dreams or one in the waking state.
We have mentioned that we should work on overcoming individualism and strive for the benefit of all. It seems to me that one of the issues of modern humanity is possessiveness.
La posesividad es un síntoma marcado de egoísmo. Es una de las tantas formas compulsivas que tiene el egoísmo para manifestarse. La persona posesiva está automáticamente, ¿sí?, colocando todas las flechas de la realidad hacia ella.
Daniel says, The possessive person automatically places all the arrows of reality towards themselves. That is to say, he is in one way or another trying to attract the attention of everything that makes up reality towards him, and somehow believes that he has the right to keep all the things for himself and only share to a limited extent what he can. So the possessive deprives itself of freedom and deprives the elements over which the possessive offers this possessiveness of freedom. That is to say, he applies and exercises this possessiveness. When a being comes into the field of life of a possessive, that being to some extent loses part of its freedom. And until the possessive gradually transcends possessiveness, it does not know freedom either. The possessive still has a debt to understand that everything that comes into his life is transitory, and that he would have to be vigilant that nothing remains in his life beyond the time frame that the energy, that the cosmic laws, that the spiritual law is seeking.
El ser que vive en el eterno presente sabe que las cosas llegan a su vida para retirarse y él está atento para cooperar, para que las cosas no encuentren rechazo cuando tienen que llegar a su vida y que puedan marcharse y seguir su camino con total libertad.
The possessive person lives continuously in a state of inertia and encapsulation, and does not live in the eternal present. The being who lives in the eternal present knows that things come into his life to be withdrawn, and he is attentive to cooperate with that process. So that when something or someone enters his life, they can live and go their own way in total freedom. So what the possessive does is to stagnate the flow of energy, the circulation of energy. One can be possessive of elements not only of person, but let's say of a bird, of any type of animal.
Entonces, el posesivo lo que hace es estancar el fluido de la energía, la circulación de la energía.
If that is how we are putting it, compulsive identification based on pseudo-affinity, because in reality, legitimate affinity has nothing to do with the laws of magnetism, personality and ego.
Legitimate affinity has to do with the principle of inner colligation between two inner beings, between souls, between the counterpart of the individual spirit consciousness with the complementary aspects on that same level, on that same plane. So everything is actually related. The emotional field is fundamental. When a being has its own emotional field and emotional center, it is unstable, and emotionalism and sentimentality are continuously part of the emotional process. Then, possessiveness, and unhealthy affinity may be present.